You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. The history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And welcome to our show today. It is Friday, February 5th, 2021. Thank goodness it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. We have a lot to talk about today. I'm going to be zipping through the news items here so we can get to our phone calls. I got some emails saying, more phone calls. We want more of those phone calls. So, it's sort of bothered me a little bit that we're ending shows, with callers still on hold. And I always feel like somehow I'm cheating them. Anyway, Mike is in our control room, twiddling the dials, keeping us out of trouble. And as usual, we're going to do news until I run out of news. And then we will open up the phone lines and let you get on in there with, what you want to talk about. I was talking with Claire earlier today, and you're probably familiar with Jeff Dunham, the ventriloquist, and one of his characters called Walter. And I am coming to the conclusion that Joe Biden and Walter were twins separated at birth. And of course, the only question that remains is whose hand is up the back of Joe Biden's jacket, moving his mouth around here. Anyway, serious news here over at Aussie.com, pointing out that Joe Biden, has a lot of foreign policy challenges ahead of him, more than most incoming presidents typically have to deal with. And unlike many of his predecessors, he's not going to have, any kind of a time to take stock of the issues. All the problems are basically piling up on him immediately here. And, he's also still trying to deal with the global pandemic, which I saw a couple of articles out there saying, isn't it amazing that the number of cases have dropped since Biden was inaugurated? And we pointed out at the time that the methodology by which cases were being determined had been changed. So the numbers were inevitably going to be lower. And sure enough, Biden is trying to take credit for it. So Biden is out there. He made his first major foreign policy address, and he vows to confront Russia as an enemy of democracy and to confront China, enemy of global governance. And boy, is that not a giveaway as to what the agenda is behind all this liberalism and other nonsense that we're seeing here. Anyway, he made his speech at the State Department headquarters on Thursday, did a 20-minute address laying out his foreign policy vision. And he's talking tough. He's out there saying that he tells Russia the U.S. is no longer rolling over in the face of aggressive action by Moscow. Again, ignoring the fact that it's the U.S. that's been the aggressor over the last 10, 15, 20 years here. But it's always we're right, they're wrong, and, we can do to them, but they can't do to us here. The Kremlin basically came on out and expressed regret, which is diplomatic speak for go pound sand, over Biden's aggressive statements regarding Russia. Now, there's another point of view that came on out in Outline.com, basically saying that right now, a deteriorating relationship with Russia is dangerous, and Biden really would be prudent to try and dial back the tensions. Of course, we don't know who's whispering in Biden's ear about those gosh darn evil Russian people and everything. Again, you've got that whole military-industrial complex. The more wars there are, the more of your money they make. Getting on to the upcoming impeachment trial, Ken Starr is out there saying that under the strict letter of the law and the Constitution, the Senate can't actually try former President Trump for anything. He's no longer impeachable because he's no longer in office. We've heard that argument before, which is probably why we have people like Maxine Waters out there saying, we need to convict him of premeditated murder. And anyway, meanwhile, it has been decided that Donald Trump will not testify during the Senate impeachment trial. This is coming from his new legal team. And apparently they wanted to get him on the stand, put him under oath, and then, ask him if he'd stop beating his wife or something like that. And his lawyer said, no, we're not going to go for that one. Meanwhile, we have this opinion coming from zerohedge.com saying that incitement isn't actually a real crime. And, the Democrats' claim is that Trump made an inflammatory speech, which a week later led to the Capitol building incident of January 6th. So, again, it's, incitement in and of itself, there actually isn't a law regarding that here. And let's not forget, back in 2016, Hillary Clinton radicalized and definitely incited violence among Americans while trying to delegitimize the political system and undermining it with all this Russian hoax nonsense here. In theory, she could be retroactively impeached as well. Now, we teased this earlier in the week where somebody had gotten a video at the Detroit TFC Center. It's a security video and basically shows 138,000 illegal ballots being delivered in a van at 3:30 a.m. Okay, just right ahead of the deadline. And apparently a man by the name of Shane Trejo claims that he witnessed the early morning ballot drop. He says there were at least 50 boxes that he saw unloaded at 3:30 a.m. And basically he's saying that was after the 8 p.m. deadline for ballots to show up. So apparently over at IntelliHub, somebody made a goof, because I saw this story elsewhere, and it also said these ballots were delivered after the deadline for ballots to be presented here. Over at Dominion, Dominion and Smartmatic are engaging in a practice called lawfare. And that is where they file massive lawsuits in an attempt to scare their enemies into silence, or even better, bankrupt them with legal fees. But Dominion Voting Systems has basically sent requests to Facebook, Parler, and other sites to keep the receipts for advertisements, and basically that it's going to be the evidence is going to be preserved. So they're out there trying to say that there was an organized campaign to sell Americans the idea of election fraud. Well, they didn't need to try on that one, did they here? So let's talk about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, because her riot fable is falling apart. And now it's actually beginning to have an impact on the White House. And it's causing political strains here, and she won't back down. Apparently, she's out there posting on Instagram, and she's back there with the sexual assault claim, and you don't know what it feels like. And she apparently made a speech on the House floor last night, basically saying that critics are trying to discredit her and claim she's making a mountain out of a molehill. After it came on out that she wasn't even in the Capitol building when it happened. And then earlier in the week, she came on out and said, well, bombs had been planted around her office building. That, of course, turned out to be a complete fabrication. And, there's an old saying, if at first you don't succeed, try again, then quit. No use looking like an idiot. But Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez basically never heard that. She is back at it again. Now she's trying to compare herself to war veterans to try and get sympathy or whatever. She thinks it's going to help her image after this huge embarrassment. And, you have to wonder about the voters in her district. Is this really the best they could come up with? The former bartender here. Out in California, the recall of Governor Newsom is now unavoidable. Newsom's poll numbers are tanking, and the recall effort has collected more than 1.4 million signatures. And that was the threshold. They're going to still collect signatures in case some of them are challenged, but it is definitely moving ahead. And Governor Newsom may be looking for gainful employment, which in this tough economy, may be kind of bad. It would be interesting to see Governor Newsom, flipping burgers at a fast food restaurant. I think I would actually enjoy that here. Story coming on out of American Thinker about how the people who are patriots, people who love freedom, people who are opposed to the authoritarian and tyrannical government that is taking root in our country, they're being labeled as far right extremists. Okay, in order to demonize them and delegitimize them. Oh, you're an extremist. And it sounds like a bad word until you step back and realize that extremists perform a useful function in political debate. They set the boundaries of what is acceptable discussion. And people will say, well, we're not going to go that far out, but there's a lot of room between what the extremists are saying and what I'm thinking, and we can have a debate in there. So it's actually something that we need to have a little bit of in this country, but it's being used as a negative label. This is a story from Tathasta.com. It's not all that surprising, okay? There's a new just a little under the weather today. It's not COVID. Okay, don't wrap your computers in plastic or anything. Apparently, according to a new Hill Harris X poll, 64% of Republicans would quit the GOP for a new third party founded by Donald Trump. So he is still a force to be reckoned with. And getting back onto the events of January 6th and the ruckus, if you will, at the Capitol building, which we know was a false flag anyway. Apparently, Bank of America, of their own free will, handed the FBI details of every one of their credit card customers who spent money on hotels or Airbnb, flights, and guns in Washington, D.C. around January 6th. And Tucker Carlson is basically in high dudgeon saying that Bank of America is treating customers like Al-Qaeda. And he's absolutely right. They're a bank. They're not supposed to be part of the spy network, as it were. Over in Wikipedia, they've introduced yet another new code of conduct. It includes banning of what they decide is false info. It bans trolling. That's not a particularly bad idea here. But they've gone totally woke in that they are requiring preferred pronoun use for persons' gender identity using distinct names and pronouns. So we're just going down that thing again here. All right, let's talk a little bit about COVID-19. It's still out there and it's still an issue. It's more political and propaganda than actual medical here. There's been another unfortunate situation. Mauro Valeriano, let me try that one again. Mauro Valeriano de Aurea, who's a gastroenterologist at Umberto Hospital in Nocera Inferiore, Italy, apparently dropped dead while playing tennis on the 24th of January. But he was in perfect health and in the prime of life. He was, 45 years old. And it happened just after he got the Pfizer mRNA COVID shot. Remember that story we had earlier in the week about an Israeli teenager who went to the ICU with an inflamed heart following his shot. And apparently a 39-year-old nurse and a 42-year-old surgical technician in that hospital also died. So we're getting back to a repeat of the 1976 swine flu debacle. Where the vaccine is killing more people than the illness is. The cure is worse than the disease. And I'm not just talking about the vaccines. I mean, the economic hardship, the psychological damage from the lockdowns. I mean, suicides are way, way up now. And this leads us to a story from revolver.news about how the phony coronavirus fear videos were used as psychological weapons to basically cow the American people and bring us to our knees, saying, please, Mr. Big Government, save us, save us, save us from the horrible whatever. And it's fear porn. And unfortunately, a lot of people fell for it. Down in Australia, and I love the Australians, they're good people for the most part, they have a petition circulating where if it gets enough signatures, the government will have to take note. And the petition is calling for no restrictions on those who refuse a COVID-19 vaccination. They do not want people being discriminated against, and I presume that means access to restaurants, sporting venues, and aircraft. But they're getting pretty much fed up with this stuff as well. Now, Michael Bloomberg is urging Joe Biden to stand up to the teachers' unions who are resisting going back to in-person teaching. And he says educators need to suck it up. And we are hearing stories now where schools that are reopening are having to hire classroom monitors because the teachers in those classrooms still want to teach from their home. So it's a complex issue, and the teachers' unions are saying, no, we are not letting our people go back into what we have been told is a high-risk, environment. Now, earlier in the week, we were talking about a video that surfaced from Florida of some shoppers at a supermarket. They were not wearing masks. Neither were the people working at the store. They were, in other words, living life normally, horror of horrors. And Shepard Smith, described the video as shocking. But as it turns out, Florida is actually doing very well in terms of bringing their COVID under control. They're doing something right. They have better COVID numbers than the states where masks are still mandatory. All righty, getting into the international news here. And you got to really pay attention to the cagey wording here. Joe Biden, when he delivered his foreign policy speech on Thursday, he vowed to end U.S. support for Saudi Arabia's offensive operations in Yemen. And the key word there is offensive, because it sounds like Biden is pulling out of Yemen, but there's nothing there about whether the United States will continue to provide weapons that would be considered defensive in nature to the Saudis. And this is a little game that nations like to play. I mean, all of the foreign aid and military aid that goes to Israel is supposedly for their defense. It's written into the treaties and agreements and everything, but of course, Israel uses it for offensive purposes. I mean, bomb is a bomb, a missile is a missile here. And this led to this other article in thesetimes.com where it says, Biden says he's ending the Yemen war. That's not exactly what he said. And they're saying it's too soon to celebrate, and I would absolutely agree. We're already in a situation where the Biden administration is playing fast and loose. They're playing word games. And we have to be very, very careful that we understand exactly what is being said and what the ramifications truly are. Over in Sudan, apparently the South Sudanese government bought surveillance capabilities from an Israeli company in order to wiretap its citizens' phones. This is coming from Amnesty International. Now, the company Verint Systems, which is a subsidiary of U.S.-based Verint Systems Incorporated, worked with the government of South Sudan to provide communications interception equipment and annual support services. Now, for those of you who remember the months leading up to 9/11, there was a big stink over the uncovering of the largest foreign spy operation inside the United States that they were working for Israel. And one of the things they did, their companies were providing billing services for phone companies and various other law enforcement equipment, all of which was backdoored. We're going to take a break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
Is your property a financial burden and causing you grief? Have you tried to sell but can't find buyers? Or are you just too busy to sell your property? Don't worry, we have the right solution for you. We buy properties as is, with cash, close in 30 days, and pay all closing costs. Our service is ideal for property owners who are in pre-foreclosure, have high-end repair costs, experiencing financial hardship, going through costly divorces, are relocating, need cash for retirement, suffering family loss, or have tax liens. Whatever your situation may be, we can help you sell your property and get the money you need. If you own a single-family home or multiple family units, call us for a free consultation at 888-910-1037. That's 888-910-1037. Or visit our website at cashingproperty.com. That's cashingproperty.com. Sell your property fast and leave all your worries behind.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
We are living in dangerous days, and I am frightened by what you say. It chills right to the core, this talk of holy war.
Welcome back to our show here. And again, a reminder that Republic Broadcasting Network cannot do what it does without your continuing support. And again, thanks from gratitude to those of you who have kept us alive this long. And again, to those of you who have not yet supported us, please think about doing so. When you can. And I understand it's hard to ask for money. Things are very, very tight economically, but every little tiny bit helps. There's no such thing as too small a donation. Every little bit will help. So once again, the postal address where you can send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number, pardon me, where you can make a credit or debit card donation is 800-724-2719, extension 3. The network thanks you. And of course, all that contact information is up at the top of republicbroadcasting.org. Turning back now to the international news here, tensions in China are continuing to increase. Apparently, the U.S. warship, the USS John S. McCain, which is an Arleigh Burke class destroyer, entered the waters near the Paracel Islands without China's permission on what they call a freedom of navigation operation. This is the first known operation in the heavily disputed area under the new Biden administration. And apparently, shortly thereafter, the People's Liberation Army expelled the destroyer for trespassing. So, still poking at each other, as it were. All right, turning to the economic news here. They finally got the 1.9 trillion stimulus package passed. It was a tie vote, so Kamala Harris got to actually cast her first tie-breaking vote to approve the budget plan in the Senate. This happened earlier today after about 15 hours of all-night debate and votes on dozens of amendments. And in the end, the Senate found itself in a 50-50 deadlock, and Kamala Harris got to shine for a little bit there. All right, Senator Amy Klobuchar is out today with a plan for how Congress could update antitrust laws to give enforcers better odds and more ammunition for taking on big tech and other industries dominated by a handful of mega corporations. And what this means for those of us in the independent media and for the American media consumer in general, it's going to be much more difficult for gigantic, all-encompassing media monopolies to be created if this passes. And there'll definitely be a lot of opposition to it. All right. Apparently, Joe Biden has withdrawn Judy Shelton's nomination as a member of the Federal Reserve Board. Now, she was under consideration back in November, and when a couple of Republicans joined Democrats in opposing the former Trump economic advisor out of concern that her perceived partisanship could imperil the Fed's independence. Well, the Fed really isn't independent. They're kind of in control of both parties here. But apparently Shelton came under fire for controversial views, including an embrace of the gold standard. And I think that was the nail in her coffin right there, because the Federal Reserve does not want any commodity base to the U.S. Federal Reserve note, because if there's a commodity base, then it limits how much of that money they can create out of thin air. And right now, creating money out of thin air is the only thing keeping this economy going. All right, there's a little bit of an analysis. This is from Zero Hedge. Biden has presented a $2 trillion clean energy plan. It's part of this whole Green New Deal that has been part of the liberal agenda for a while now. But it says it may be very expensive for you, the consumer, if the United States follows the mistakes of the European example. That you're going to see gas prices go up at the pump, heating oil go up, and so forth and so on. Over in GameStop land, apparently everybody's looking for somebody to blame for this thing. And apparently this one Redditor who made millions of dollars during the GameStop chaos is already being set up to take the fall. And what they're trying to sell to you, the American people, is it's okay for hedge funds to play these games, but not for ordinary American citizens. The violation of the Equal Protection Clause right there. Now, we all know about pirates. We have pirates mentioned in one of our bump music pieces here. And it turns out right now that piracy is surging in the Gulf of Mexico. And the U.S. has issued a warning. And apparently, according to the United States Office of Naval Intelligence, there was a conflict involving an exchange of gunfire. Of course, our Navy is on the other side of the planet right now. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
It's happening, ladies and gentlemen. We here at RBN are working with Front Sight Firearms Training Institute to bring our audience the best in combat, tactical, and defensive firearms training. Whether you're a private citizen who is new to firearms or you have a concealed weapon permit and want a level of training that surpasses what you've received from your local gun range, Front Sight provides priceless education and skills taught by seasoned law enforcement, military, and private citizen instructors to levels that far exceed law enforcement and military standard. With nearly 1 million responsible citizens trained from every town, city, and state from across the United States, Front Sight has bolstered the Patriot movement to a whole new level. Contact Dan Sutterfield by phone at 573-762-2356 or 573-465-2356 or shoot him an email at domedan, DOMEDAN, at hotmail.com. This is a limited time opportunity. Don't miss it.
What would you say if I told you we have a new tool that will increase production and lower maintenance costs for your meat processing company? And it would pay for itself in just 6 weeks.
When pigs fly.
The new Ease Off Model Easy 4 replaces old spring-style carcass droppers and is faster, safer, and more reliable. The Ease Off lowers or lifts 1,000 pounds to or from your rail automatically using our remote control.
Sounds expensive. Can I afford it?
Can you afford not to try the Ease Off? It installs fast with just 3 bolts in place of your current dropper. The effortless operation will reduce fatigue and injuries, speed up your line, eliminate downtime, and increase profit.
How can I order my Ease Off?
Go to easeoff.com, EAZEOFF.com, and hurry because we are offering $200 off on the new Easy 4 for a limited time. Easeoff.com. We make pigs fly. Cows too. Ease Off LLC, Summersville, Missouri, 417-932-6419.
Corporations, Wall Street and the banks rule our politicians. They don't deserve our thanks, then they tell us the banks are too big to fail. When the banksters all need to be in
Welcome back to our show here. We're talking about the economic news. And over at Amazon, apparently last January 25th, hundreds of workers at an Amazon warehouse in Chicago were basically handed a choice of either signing up for a 10.5-hour graveyard shift or lose their jobs. And apparently this warehouse known as DCH1 would be shut down, and they were being offered a shift that runs from 1:20 a.m. to 11:50 a.m., which is known as Megacycle, at a new Chicago warehouse. Now, DCH1 has been the target of protests, walkouts, and petitions, and as you're already aware, Amazon workers are attempting to unionize. Amazon is spying on them, sending in infiltrators, and they're forcing workers to choose between their lives outside of Amazon and keeping their jobs in the middle of this economic downturn. Amazon is also preparing to install high-tech video cameras inside its fleet of delivery vehicles to better monitor drivers' behavior. And apparently this came out in an instructional video sent out to employees and contract workers about Amazon's new partnership with Netrodyne, which is a California-based company developing video cameras inside fleet vehicles to monitor drivers. The cameras will nag the drivers, They will say you're distracted driving, no stop detected, please slow down. And, it reminds me of back when the United States Postal Service hired these efficiency experts who just really tried to micromanage the postal workers until all of a sudden there was a flood of shootings, which gave us the phrase going postal. So this may not work out all that well. All right. Apparently, the United States added just 49,000 jobs last month, which is not anywhere close to recovering the jobs that have been lost during the previous year. We had a caller who called in about this yesterday, talking about immigration and globalization. The U.S. Customs and Border Protection arrested 11 Iranians in Arizona who illegally entered the United States. And apparently the Border Patrol determined the group had illegally crossed the international border into the U.S. They were arrested and taken to Yuma Station for processing. And apparently, because of our deteriorating relations with Iran, special attention is being given to them. I hope it's not a setup for some kind of a false flag propaganda. Anyway, Joe Biden has apparently revived the immigration policy called catch and release, which allows border jumpers seeking asylum to remain in the United States, just running free while awaiting adjudication. And Biden says he's doing this to avoid spending money housing the illegal immigrants. So anyway, well, if you're going to catch and release them, it's just like, why bother? My understanding is a lot of these illegals never show up for their court hearings. Okay, let's see. Getting into some of the woke news and what this is just really, really weird. This is coming out of ToddStarnes.com here. And apparently, transgender military veterans will soon have access to fake breasts and male sex organs along with other prosthetic devices, according to a VA bulletin obtained by the Todd Starnes radio show. Now, apparently, a disgusted military veteran sent in the information, noting how the Veterans Administration is not really taking adequate care of our wounded and injured veterans, but they're bending over backwards to accommodate men who identify as women and women who identify as men. And this military veteran said we should be focused on teaching soldiers how to win wars, not how to put on chest binders and breast forms. And he's absolutely right about that. This is going to demoralize the troops more than they already are. Okay, this this happened earlier in the week, but apparently Texas moved to fully end taxpayer funding of Planned Parenthood. And the state denied Planned Parenthood's request to continue to receive Medicaid reimbursement funding for its clinics. Well, that didn't last very long because apparently a day before the action was to take effect, a Texas judge blocked the state from kicking Planned Parenthood out of the Medicaid program. And, there's an issue there that I don't think has been adequately addressed. Okay, there are people who are absolutely opposed to abortion. There are people who are opposed to abortion as retroactive birth control. I'm one of the latter. But they are being forced to pay for abortions. And does that really sound fair to you? I mean, abortion seems more like an elective than a life or death situation, especially when it's used for retroactive birth control. All right, let's get into guns and gun rights here. The ammo shortage is just really getting serious. I was talking with one of the ammo providing companies, and they're saying that they can barely keep inventory in stock. It comes in one door and goes right out the next. The shortage is all over here. Of course, the police and the military, they've got all the ammunition they could ever want. There is a new bill in Congress that essentially nullifies the Second Amendment. And this is House Resolution 127. We talked about it before. It was brought to the into the House by Sheila Jackson Lee, and it's called the Sabika Sheikh Firearms Licensing and Registration Act. And basically, it does represent an infringement of your rights under the Second Amendment. One of the most onerous things in there is an $800 insurance payment due every year. The idea being that you should have liability insurance in case something bad happens with your gun. Now, I personally think it's a good idea, but I don't think it should be mandatory because I remember what happened when auto insurance became mandatory. Premiums went up, service went down, and the consumer got screwed over here. And at some point, though, this is going to have to go up to a Supreme Court challenge. And assuming that Biden has not, in fact, packed the court, which they're still talking about, it has to be basically brought down as, unconstitutional. All right. Several states are considering becoming Second Amendment sanctuaries, and Missouri is the latest one. They are basically, they just debated 17 hours. House Bill 85, the Second Amendment Preservation Act, proceeded to a closing House floor hearing. And it passed in a 107 to 43, mostly partisan vote. The measure would nullify federal laws or other actions deemed to infringe on a person's Second Amendment right to bear arms, while claiming not to trespass on federal authority to enforce federal gun laws in Missouri. And basically, it's states are fighting back. They are really trying to fight back. Okay. We know the police aren't going to protect us. They're too busy, spying on Trump supporters right now. And everywhere in the country where guns are banned, violence goes up. Look at Chicago. Look at Washington, D.C. And some years ago, there was a town in Georgia called Kennesaw, and they passed a local ordinance requiring every single household to have a gun. And crime fell 80%. I want to think about that. Now, there's another little legal wrinkle. Not a lot of people know about this one. It's called the Dick Act of 1902. It's also known as the Efficiency of Militia Bill, H.R. 11654 of June 28, 1902, and it invalidates all so-called gun control laws. And it divided the militia into three distinct and separate entities. There's the organized militia, which some people say that's the National Guard right now, and the unorganized militia and the regular army. Now, the militia encompasses every able-bodied male between the ages of 18 and 45. Sadly, I no longer qualify for that. And all members of the unorganized militia have the absolute personal right and Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms of any type and as many as they can afford to buy. So that law is actually still in effect. And there's another little development here. It's called the Charleston loophole. Now, we've been hearing lately that gun sales are through the roof. And apparently last month set a record for the FBI's background check system. But apparently there is a loophole because if the FBI takes longer than 3 days to complete the background check, the sale will go through. Now, if the FBI later determines the sale shouldn't have gone through, they refer it to the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, right? So there's that little loophole. People are buying guns just because the FBI can't keep up with the paperwork load. Good reason to go out and buy more of them. Righty. Now, over in New Mexico, there is a Democratic state senator that has introduced a bill that will criminalize parents who teach their children how to shoot. And the idea is the bill declares children of the parents are not considered an authorized user. And therefore, that makes it illegal for the parents to teach them how to shoot. Well, I think that is absolutely absurd. Okay. I mean, when I was a kid, gun safety was taught in the public schools. We had shooting clubs. We got free guns from the government left over from World War II in Korea. Now they want to say that parents can't teach their kids gun safety. I mean, that is utterly, utterly ridiculous. In other news here, boy, be a good time to be living in Oregon right now, I guess. They have decriminalized all drugs, including cocaine, heroin, and meth, via Measure 110. Users in possession of the drugs can now opt for rehab rather than go to prison. And Oregon is the first state to pass this type of legislation. And so they're moving from a criminal justice-based approach to a healthcare-based approach. I think it's a very, very smart thing to do, because the more they make drugs illegal, the more they drive the profits up, and the harder the drug criminals will work to keep pouring that stuff into our country, into our schools, and so forth. All righty. Progressives apparently are now unhappy with Denzel Washington. Now, he's a two-time Academy Award-winning actor. He's very good. I'm a huge fan. I like the stuff that he's done out there. And he's done a lot of good work for veterans. He doesn't get a lot of press for it, but he doesn't. But apparently, progressives have decided he's not black enough because he's endorsed police. He's criticized Black Lives Matter. And he's being described as Harrison Ford dipped in chocolate. There is just no making these people happy, so why should we bother trying anymore? This one is just utterly, utterly absurd. It's coming from newspunch.com, and apparently there is a university professor, Katja Gunther, who is claiming that being kind to dogs is racist. This is not The Onion. This is for real. She published a book claiming that white supremacy is to blame for non-white people abusing their animals. That is really out there. So she is saying that if you're kind to dogs, you're racist. Oh, well, guess I'm a racist. What can I tell you here? All righty. According to Whoopi Goldberg, any criticism of Vice President Kamala Harris is bigoted and racist. Here. I love this next one, and it just shows how completely messed up our government has become. Apparently, Joe Biden's Department of Justice has launched an investigation into Elon Musk's SpaceX for not hiring a non-U.S. citizen who wasn't a lawful permanent resident. And they're out there saying basically that SpaceX has to start hiring more non-citizens to be inclusive. We have got Americans with degrees in engineering and chemistry and rocketry and computers and stuff who are going without jobs. Shouldn't they really be first in line for an American company? I think so. I absolutely think so. Okay. By the way, SpaceX just set a record for reusable rocketry. They send them up, they come down. He sends them back up, they come back down again. And they just set a new record for that. Meanwhile, SpaceX has announced the first all-civilian mission into space. And apparently the mission is going to use SpaceX's Dragon spacecraft. There'll be a 4-person crew that will be headed up by founder and CEO of Shift4 Payments, Jared Isaacman, who is a trained pilot who has flown both commercial and military aircraft. And that mission is set to go in the 4th quarter. Well, good for them. You know, if I won the lottery, I'd take a ride on that rocket. White House is throwing its support behind NASA's Artemis program to return to the moon. And what they're trying to do is look for ways that they could possibly commercialize lunar travel. Of course, if they bring back moon rocks, people will want to buy them. There's no question about that. But through the Artemis program, the U.S. will work with industry and international partners to send astronauts to the surface of the moon. And apparently on the first mission, they're making a big deal. They're going to send a woman to the moon. And, that's good for the public relations out there. But that's apparently out there and good. I think we should be getting back out to space here. All righty. Here's an article. This is from Popular Science. And it's an article on how NASA kept its Mars rovers alive long past their expiration dates. And they're talking about Opportunity and Spirit, which lasted a long time. I'm going to take a break for commercials. I want to come back to this story because there's kind of a personal angle here.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Hello, I'm Dr. Leonard Horowitz. I was right 30 years ago in warning the world about threatening lab virus outbreaks, AIDS, and Ebola. I was right 20 years ago when FBI Director Robert Mueller made me a suspect in the anthrax mailings because I warned the Bureau before the CIA's biocrime and Cipro sales psyops happened. I was right about COVID-19 being an AIDS-laced mutagen planned to resurge this fall to excuse officials' profitable depopulation globalization agendas. And I was right about the only safeguards being antioxidants and holy spiritual sustenance. Vitamin C, D, zinc, chlorophyll, oxygen, and oxysilver especially transmits the frequency resonance to neutralize the expanded function bioweapon. Oxysilver is a double superconductor of the healing power of love. It is the first nutraceutical invented to amplify prayer power and the faithful, loving intention of your heart. Buy, try, and stockpile Oxysilver through healthyworldstore.com.
Hey, honey, I'm home. I grabbed the newspaper on the way home. Look at all the news today.
The newspaper? Don't you know that all you're going to get in the newspaper is propaganda, twisted news, and false information?
Honey, this is a national newspaper. It has to be true.
Ha! For some reason, a majority of the population believe anything the mainstream media tells them. The newspaper does not give out the important attention on what's happening to this country and news that affects our daily lives. Say, does that newspaper mention anything about the North American Union?
No, not that I can see.
I didn't think so. You need to go to www.newswithviews.com, where truth is more important than political correctness. That's www.newswithviews.com. Hey, don't throw that away. We can use that in the birdcage.
Okay, move over. Let me start reading newswithviews.com.
The truth? Read all about it at newswithviews.com. Newswithviews.com, where reality shatters illusion.
Welcome to What Really Happened Radio. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. And now, set your eyes on the future and let's consider what really happened.
Welcome back to our show here, and I want to finish this story. We're going to open the phone lines, area code 512-248-8252. So we're talking about this story about how NASA kept its Mars rovers alive long past their expiration dates, and NASA's had extremely good luck with Mars. Yes, we lost a few, but the ones that get down there, I mean, they keep going and going. It's like the ever-ready bunny or something like that. And they're talking about opportunity and spirit. They're talking about curiosity. And of course, we're just, a couple of weeks away from Perseverance setting down. And I'm really going to be watching on that one because that one intentionally is looking for life. But I'm a veteran of the Viking missions, and they too lasted way beyond their original design expectations. And as a matter of fact, a little anecdote here, they were only expected to return 256 images each back to Earth. And so the entire computerized filing system for managing the images was set up to handle that limited number. And then when it became obvious that the Vikings were just going to keep on ticking here, there was a furious rewrite of the code in order to accommodate those much larger image numbers here. So again, NASA, they get it right. They really do get it right. And finally, a little story here. We all know about Cassini, that sort of buzzed by Saturn's largest moon, Titan, and basically determined that the surface does have lakes of liquid methane. And now apparently they have analyzed the data and determined that the largest lake may be 1,000 feet deep. And I would be very, very curious to see if there's something swimming around in there. All righty, we're going to hit the phones now. Joe in California, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Greetings, my fellow terrorists.
I am not a terrorist. I'm annoying, irritating, and obnoxious, but I am not a terrorist.
Mike, you don't look a day over 42.
Well, thank you very much. Maybe I can start lying about my age. And I'm in my NASA years, T-minus 50, and holding and holding and holding and holding and holding.
What happened to that? What happened to that hideously old picture of yourself you used to have behind you in Hawaii?
I don't even know where that went. We lost a lot of stuff in the move.
Mike, back in 1964, Barry Goldwater said these words: "Extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice."
Yes,
and
I
those
remember
words
that.
apply more today than they did back then.
Mm-hmm.
Just quickly, I have 2 points, and then I'll let the other callers join in. Mike, I'm very encouraged right now. I am really very encouraged with the addition of these transgenders into the military. Just think about it. We're going to have the sexiest army in the world and leave our enemies breathless. I mean, just imagine the Ruskies. Just imagine the Ruskies and the Chinese just fainting out on the battlefield.
Well, I imagine them laughing so hard they drop their guns. All right, Joe, stay on the line. Stay on the line. I'm going to put you on hold. We'll be back with hour number 2 of our program after these few words.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
Welcome back to our show, hour number 2. The phone lines are open, area code 512-248-8252. We're talking with Joe in California. And Joe, what's on your mind?
Mike, all joking aside, I just want to get to this Bank of America story with the FBI. This just got me so angry. This is just a clear example of fascism, as Mussolini defined it, the merger of state and corporate power. As a result, I have closed all my accounts this morning with Bank of America. I will not tolerate this kind of activity, and I'll certainly not support it with my own finances. So I urge others to do the same. We have to use our economic power to send a message to these companies. That's all I have. Thank you, Mike.
All right. No, I absolutely agree with that. And you're right. It is the classic definition of fascism. And there was another story where apparently acting on data of this nature, the FBI actually raided the home of somebody who happened to be in Washington, D.C. on January 6th, but was nowhere near the Capitol building, wasn't part of the protest. They were there, doing their job. And they still got raided by the FBI on the basis of this information. Okay, we're going to switch now over to Mark in North Carolina. Hello, Mark. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, Mike, a couple of things. One, I just want to straighten something out. Yesterday, Miles called and was talking about, I think, Miles, you need to open your ears a little bit. I do nothing but yell about Biden now, but for me to just scream, without reason makes no sense, because I know the man. I know the man was a dirtbag from the get-go. I never supported him during a primary. I did support Tulsi Gabbard at one time. Okay, and I don't regret that I did. I said Bernie Sanders might be better than Trump at one time, but then once he started opening his mouth on his foreign policy business and his believing Russiagate, I knew that was nonsense. And as far as being a socialist, no, I'm not a socialist, Miles. But I do believe there's some kind of socialist, the nationalist socialist, like you have, for instance, you had in Libya, you have in Nicaragua, and you have in a couple other places, and you have in Belarus. It is certainly better than the predatory capitalists that are running this country right now. Okay, that doesn't mean I endorse socialism, but right now we have a predatory type of capitalism that's running this country, and that's why we're in most of the reasons why we're in trouble right now. And the big tech companies and big banks are perfect examples of that. Now, as far as what's going on with Biden and the military, I think what he's doing now is setting up a very good possibility of a civil war, not necessarily with the American people, but within the military itself.
Mm-hmm.
He is asking for trouble, what he's doing by purging the military.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of everything else, he has the gall to be shaking his fist at Russia. It's funny what you just said about Russians laughing. I was listening to Mike Adams earlier this morning, his updates that he has.
Yes.
Mike Adams is right, the health ranger.
Yes.
And he was saying also, the only thing this they might defeat Russia because the Russians would be so busy laughing they wouldn't be able to know what to do once they saw what passes for a military that we would send over their way.
Yes.
That's pretty much true. The same thing with the Chinese. Who, by the way, the Chinese have are right now trying to push a more macho population because they're worried that their men are becoming too feminized. So
Yes.
the Chinese and the Russians, and by the way, if I don't buy this stuff that the Chinese are really globalists, I think they're using globalists to push their own agenda, which is basically Chinese domination of the world at some point, that they'll be the most powerful nation in the world. That's what they're probably doing. Don't get me wrong. I don't trust the Chinese. I know they're up to no good, but at the same time, we're making it easy for them because we're weakening this country so badly.
Yes.
Again, it's just an example of what we're doing to our military. And I think in some ways this might be good. I think we may be pushing the point because I would hate to see the point come when they do have when the establishment do have their robots online, the Terminator type robots online.
Yes.
Then it could be very difficult. Right now, for them to really push their policies forcibly would be almost impossible because there's nothing to push it with.
True.
Like I said, it's but maybe it's best to bring it to a head right now because, again, if they ever get those robots online, I don't know how many they have already. What I saw about Boston Dynamics and all that.
Yes.
When I watched the Terminator movies, we may not be that far away from it, and that is scary, But like I said, they're pushing the envelope. When they start purging the military, I mean, who do they expect to get in there? Well, are they going to go with a draft? Do they think they're going to get away with a draft? You know what really ended the Vietnam War, Mike? A lot of people don't realize this, is the fragging of officers.
Yes.
Fragging means, that it was shooting or grenading, throwing grenades at officers and senior enlisted men for either getting them in too much combat or being too gung-ho, too strict. They were refusing to go out in the field. There actually was not only insubordination, there was actually mutinies. Whole
Yes.
companies were mutinying and not going out in the field. This is this thing what really brought an end to the draft because they realized they could not, and it brought an end to the Vietnam War because they knew they couldn't deal with that. So what are they trying to do today? I mean, this guy Austin, I think, is a complete idiot. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I don't even think he's not only a traitor to this country, but he's also an idiot. If he doesn't realize that himself, having been in the military, but he's the kind of general that probably got ahead, okay, because he had his head stuck up somebody's, where, okay?
Yeah, I know.
Rear end,
Yeah,
right?
I get it. Yes.
He didn't get there on merit. You can take that to the bank.
Okay.
All right. Most of these generals don't get where they're going on merit, like I said yesterday, and I can say, Mike, we're in a heap load of trouble. Okay.
Yes, we are. No question.
This man this clown is totally incompetent. He should not be president. He's not even. He doesn't have 52 cards in the deck anymore. It's
Yes.
so obvious. And he's dangerous. He's dangerous in a lot of respects, including the possibility that this guy could push that button. And like you say, it has to be two people, but who knows who the
Two-man
second
rule.
one would be? Okay, huh?
Yeah, the two-man rule,
Would it be
and
admiral?
hopefully that is still in effect. I mean, I obviously don't hang out in those circles anymore, so I would be very much afraid of a president who could launch the nuclear weapons all on his own.
And imagine, in return, we would get those. What is it? Mach 10? What is it? Mach something speed missiles that the Russians now have.
The Zircon travels at Mach 8.
Yeah, but I understand.
By the way,
yeah,
that's
what
1/3 orbital speed.
That's just to destroy ships, but they've got something else that can go transatlantic or transpacific. They're also a very, very fast weapon.
Yes.
Yeah. forgot what it was called, but so we're in a heap bit of trouble. That's all I can say. If the military does, if there is part of the military that wants to get rid of this guy and take and have some kind of a coup, because there has been a coup already, then hopefully they'll do it quick, because way too long it might be too late, really. So that's all I got to say, Mike. You take it easy. Have a nice weekend, all right?
All right,
same to Claire too.
Yeah, okay. She just walked past the back door there. Hello to Claire, and she says hello back. And we're going to switch over to Lyle in Berlin. I'm sorry, Kyle in Berlin. Hello, Kyle. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
How are we?
Okay, you're on the air.
Okay, fantastic. You've got some great callers, Mark in North Carolina, Layla in Canada, the poor woman up in the barbaric north.
Yeah.
Peter, who was the lieutenant colonel.
Mm-hmm.
And, some fantastic callers, but they keep going on to the Jewish conspiracy. One thing they're missing, in my opinion, is everybody is saying, Mike, it's the Republicans are the good guys, the Democrats are the bad guys. They've got to realize there are two sides of the same sword. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. They're all bad guys here, but they try and maintain a point of difference, in order to sell the campaigns for the election. But what we have here is the Democrats are calling the Republicans fascists, and the Republicans are calling the Democrats communists. And the problem is they're both correct.
Indeed, and it's all a play. It's all a ploy. It's all a kind of a fashion statement. And, you've still got the people saying, oh, General Flynn and President Trump are working together, and they're going to, they're really they're going to arrest those people. It's so embarrassing, because what that does is it says to people, let's stay at home and not do anything,
Okay.
It's terrible. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. Many people are saying, well, the Q movement, right? You've heard of that, Mike?
Yes.
Yes, indeed. So many people are saying, trust in the plan. Trust in the plan.
Yeah,
There's
well,
no
that's
plan.
just to get us to sit on our rear ends and not do anything.
Indeed. There's no plan whatsoever. Trump,
So there isn't.
I keep saying to people, he's part of the game. He's part of the system. No, he's not. He's the number one president. I mean, these people are so lucid.
Well, they're grasping for a ray of hope that we're not turning into the new version of the Soviet Union, which does seem to be what's happening here.
Well, indeed, but the thing is, I've been listening to you for many years, and we need hope. We really need hope, and we thought Trump was the hope, but it's kind of a dumbbell on the face, on the head. It's just the way it is. And people are saying now, oh, he will make Ivanka could be the president, Jared Kushner. I mean, look who he pardoned.
Yes.
Jared Kushner's father. That was a total joke. Chris Christie, in actual fact, and I would challenge anybody in your audience who could be a better debater than Chris Christie. He was a fantastic debater, 100%, because he was a prosecutor, right?
Okay.
But, he got the guy locked up, and then, suddenly Trump pardoned him. It's so much corruption. It's unbelievable. And
it is here, and I'm very angry that Trump did not pardon Edward Snowden and Julian Assange.
Well, I'm okay. I agree with Julian Assange, but I think Edward Snowden may be a double agent. That's my opinion.
Okay, I wondered about Assange when he first burst onto the media scene, and he got all this press without actually having done anything at that point. But I think he got caught up in circumstances, beyond his control. I think Edward Snowden is the real deal. Because there are people who get involved in these kinds of clandestine activities, and after a while, it starts to play on their sense of morality and ethics.
But why are they keeping him alive in Russia if he were the real deal? They would kill him instantly.
You mean why the Russians aren't killing him, or the Americans?
No, indeed. Why? Ugh. Look, the Russians and the Americans, this is a faux pas, in my opinion. And my grandfather was a general in the whole issue, and so, etc.
Okay.
The Russians and the Americans, they work together, and this is the kind of the faux pas
they did World War II.
going on. Indeed, but the Russians are against the Americans are against the Russians. Look at Afghanistan. Look at Syria. Look at all these areas in the Middle East. I'm not sure it's a Middle East strategically, but it's kind of a move your horses back. You know what I mean, Mike?
Well, there's a lot of that relationship going on, and again, it's just boosting sales and power and prestige for the military establishment in both countries.
Well, by all means, 100%. But regardless of that, I just wanted to say a few more things, if I may.
Okay.
My favorite callers, Tom in Florida. When I started listening into you, I thought this guy is so irritating, but he's growing on me.
Okay.
And Peter in Los Angeles, who's I think is a lieutenant colonel.
They're both waiting on hold right now.
And Layla in Canada, fantastic. I think the main thing is, if you may, because I'm an expat living in Berlin, but I'm Scottish by birth. Please, all of you who have the time, go back to the Declaration of our Birth in the 1200s.
Okay.
And this is talking about great freedom. And this is what we need to impress upon people. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the phone call. And we're going to go to Peter in Los Angeles. Peter, your ears must be burning. What's on your mind today?
Yeah, hi, Mike. I just wanted to call and sort of reinforce what a couple people have said here, and make a point of my own. The first one is when Joe called on in earlier, Joe from California, when he called in and talked about the Bank of America thing, and talked about his use of a boycott, which is definitely appropriate to do that.
Yes,
so
I agree.
You can't have these guys doing what they're doing. Yeah. I'm sorry, Mike, what were you saying?
I was agreeing with you.
And since, in my opinion, to reinforce what the gentleman from Berlin just said, I believe also that this is the two-party system is a kabuki theater. It's just meant there to make it look like we have a say. Obviously, we don't, and it's the corporations that own everything. That really they buy the government. They pay for what we see and what we hear and everything. And by the way, the point I wanted to make also was that if the corporations are doing that and it's their goal, and look, by the way, Bank of America is of course a bank. It's a member of the Federal Reserve. We know who controls all that and how they're using this sort of thing. But look how the attack on BDS. One of the last things, not only is it an Israeli thing, it's a corporate thing.
Yes.
None of these corporations want the consumers to have any power at all.
Yes.
And that's the point I want to make. There's an interlock there, just like you're interlocking with the banks turning over information to the feds, or the phone companies turning over information to the feds, or participating in the bugging and all that they've been doing for years and years. And I also want to talk about something that Mark said, and that is the efficiency of the military, which he's absolutely right. It's going to be a clown show. It is to a large extent right now.
All right. Well,
but
Peter,
I want to point out that.
Okay, I'm going to have to put you on hold. Don't hang up. We're going to take a break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. We'll plant them anywhere you like and blow up anyone. Whip this world into a frenzy, killing babies, dads, and moms. If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. If you got the money, well, we won't say we
Welcome
did.
back to our show here, and we're talking with Peter in Los Angeles. And Peter, if you want to just continue where you left off, thank you.
I was reinforcing what Mark said about the military and what they expect to do when they're telegraphing a message that basically 62% of the population that make up much more than 62% of the officer corps and the combat arms, by the way,
Yes.
are the white kids, male and female, basically, when they're proclaiming loudly that they don't trust them, that they can't have the identity that everybody else is having. That's a real problem, and it's going to make it what's already a pretty sorry state of affairs for our military much by quantity, much worse.
Yes.
And the last thing I want to say is that it seems to be in my lifetime, and I pay pretty close attention to this, and I invite anybody out there who knows anything more maybe than I do about this, or find an example. I don't know of one example of any general officer or flag officer in my lifetime, and I'm 60, I'm your age, that has ever resigned over conscience, has ever offered tendered their resignation because they disagreed with a policy on principle.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've known colonels who have done that, and people below flag and general, but I've never known. And maybe our system doesn't produce people like that. The system, our military system, it's tough when you're looking for obedience and functionality of chain of command to get that. I mean, that's what part of the things you're sort of breeding into it. But you still have to have people of conscience that would stand up. And I'm not aware of any, Mike.
Well, not within the rank and file of the military. And, for decades now, our schools have been teaching obedience. Our students are not being taught to think. They're told to simply, stand up and fight for an opinion that's given to them.
Yeah, and it's the higher up you go on the ladder here, I think they're using sort of psychological or hardwired jujitsu, because the same thing that makes capitalism effective is basically the Gordon Gekko, greed is good. The higher up you go, and the more invested that you are in the system, the less likely you are to let morals intrude upon that.
True.
So, anyways, I'm taking too long, Mike. That was my little comment.
Okay, well, thank you very much for the call, Peter. And we're going to switch to Tom in Florida. And Tom, what's on your mind?
Yeah, Michael, I just want to say, Peter and all those great callers grow on me too, man. Like you got so many great callers on your show, Mike. They all grow on me. And Peter's a great call, and all the other guys, most of them. Anyway, Mike, it was about yesterday. I had a little too much. I hit the cafe espresso too hard. I got to admit that I hit. When you go to have a little shot, that's like instant speed. That stuff, I'm telling you.
Yes.
that espresso gets you really going when you're groggy, man. So I didn't hit the cafe espresso cafe. So that's when I get a little excited. But yeah, Mike. Now I want to talk what's really going on. I don't know if you got a chance to see Breitbart, Drudge, or Newsmax today about the election from the New York Times. Did you have a chance to see that? How Trump lost the election?
Not.
What they're saying? Okay, what they're saying, here's what they're saying. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
What? No, they're saying now that it was the white men who lost Donald Trump the election, not the white women as much as the white men. That Trump lost 16% of the white males compared to what he ran against Hillary. And now they're saying that basically what I've been saying for a long time, it's the New York Times has an article out, I guess, today, or it was all over the news today. I'm surprised you didn't see it. That the reason Trump did lose the election was because of the white women, or white men, and the white women too. Trump lost the suburban women by 18% more. He lost the white women, and he lost the males. Nationwide, he lost 6% more of the white males than 2016. And
well, again, we don't know who actually did or did not vote for Trump because of all the massive fraud. Now, right now, the corporate media's job is to try and convince Americans that despite all the evidence of fraud, that it didn't affect the final outcome, which is what we hear every time that there's an election that's questionable.
Well, yeah, you're right, Mike, and that's right. The narrative is being played out by the New York Times how Trump could have won the election if he could have grabbed on to more white women and mainly more white men and now it's the reason he lost the election. And I'm saying to myself, what hypocrites? In the meantime, the bumbling Biden administration is going to let in millions of illegal aliens. The times and all these people are complacent. You know, I was thinking, you know, they talked about going to the Capitol. Actually, what people should have protested right in front of those New York Times and all these ABC, NBC, and CBS headquarters. That's where the protest should
I
be
agree
at.
with you on that one. Yes, I agree.
That's where they should go. Amass hundreds of thousands of people. Not in Washington. You should go to New York. You should go to ABC, NBC, CBS, wherever the hell they are, and demand that they stop lying.
Tom.
Yeah.
I got to put
Mike.
you on hold. Got to put you on hold. We're going to take a break for commercials. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
February is Heart Month. Every year for the month of February, to show our appreciation to Extendivite's faithful customers, we have a sale. If you would like to try Extendivite, now is the time to get a few months ahead and really give Extendivite the time to show you how it works. Most of Extendivite's long-term customers wait for this sale to stock up. People and doctors tell us about the unbelievable improvements that they have experienced in their overall health, not just the heart. Extendivite wants you to experience the power of these herbs. Get a 4-month supply for only $115 for either the capsules or tincture. Please take advantage of this once-per-year sale and get healthy for life. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or find us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We have a special promotion going on at Republic Broadcasting. This is a fundraiser for Republic Broadcasting involving the Energy Cleaner. Mail me a postcard. My address is at my website at thelibertyman.com. We pick a postcard every other Thursday. When your postcard is drawn out, you get to buy an Energy Cleaner for $215 instead of $285, $70 discount. $200 goes to Republic Broadcasting. You also get a 10% discount on my mattress pads. So get those postcards in, put your name, your telephone number, your email address on there, and when your postcard is drawn, you get to get an Energy Cleaner for $215 instead of $285. Mattress pads, 10% off. Help us out at Republic Broadcasting and help yourself to get an Energy Cleaner at a deep discount. It's a win-win situation for everybody. We hope you can get these postcards in soon. Thank you very much.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Working 2 jobs ends never seem to meet. She often goes hungry, so her babies can't eat. Fatherless son wears torn clothes to school. We're making fun of him's the only golden rule. She doesn't know she's a favorite daughter.
Welcome back to our show here. We're talking with Tom in Florida. And Tom, just pick up where you left off.
Yeah, Mike. First off, just so you know, in Miami Herald reported yesterday that over 60% of the people here in South Florida do not want to speak English. At home they'd rather speak Spanish. Just so I throw that out there with you.
Okay.
So that's what's going on here in South Florida. Now, also, Mike, I'm pretty sure you heard about Macron and Le Pen in France. What's going to happen in their election in 2 years down the road? Have you heard about that? The main issue will be.
What you tell us what the issue will be.
The main issue they're saying now in the French election will be immigration, but mainly white French women not having birthing babies. They're having a big problem now. The French women do not want to have children, like what's going on in Japan. But now Le Pen is like basically saying, I'm running for whatever, the president of France, and I'm telling the white French women to start having children because the most popular name in Paris and in France is Mohammed, just like in England, London.
Yes.
Now, basically, these white Europeans are finally getting their brains, the head screwed on, like they did in Hungary and Poland.
Yes.
No more illegal immigration. Our women are going to have the children. We're going to bring back our population. We don't need to be importing another population. And that's if Le Pen goes on that narrative, she'll win the French election. They got to get rid of that idiot Macron because that guy's a real leftist too. I'd rate him right one notch higher than he's just a step above Kamala Harris, Macron, whatever his name is. And that's another thing that's going to be their big thing that's going to happen. You're going to see in the 2022 election, Mike, is that even here, people at the next election, I don't know if we can stop this cheating. We got to stop this cheating at all costs, Mike. We got the number one issue, and always with me is, and I'm pretty sure with you, is the illegal immigration, Title 8. I call a bunch of congressmen, Mike. I tell the senators, I tell them all. What are you going to look at Title 8? Why aren't these Democrats being arrested for the murders of American citizens, which are angel mothers and fathers? How come these people have not been arrested?
Okay, Tom, I got to intrude here a little bit because, you've been over this ground before, and I'm in agreement with you that immigration is a major problem. I don't rank it as number one, but I've actually gotten emails saying that when you call on in, it's always about the same thing, immigration, and it's the same rant. I even got one email that said when you come on the phone line, they take a 10-minute break.
Mike, I disagree with that, Mike, because a lot of people are not bringing up what's going on in France. I don't talk about the same subject. I say what's happening, but like what's going on in France. Look what is going on in France, Mike. They're bringing a whole new group of people. The women in France are not having children like they should. Germany, even England, and even here in the United States, Mike, they're bringing a whole look. Like you said, these people can go south to South America. They got a giant continent down there. Mexico's got more fertile land than the United States, it seems like, from what I hear. And so, people want to brag on me about, I talk about all kinds of stuff. You want to talk about Mars? I can talk about Mars. I think the Europeans should colonize Mars for the Chinese. That's what I think, Mike. I think Mars is a habitable planet. I think we should go to that. We're the first man. We put the first man on the moon. They're still in our technology. Nobody else calls your show tells you about the bamboo curtain that was opened up under tricky Dick Nixon. What in 40 years they have taken over the world, dominant economies. I mean, come on. People want to bash me. I don't talk about immigration.
China has become my radio show. China has become a major economic power because they make products for sale, and that's in contrast to the American model, where the money junkies believe that if they take a gob of money and shake it back and forth, it's magically going to grow all by itself, and that actually does not happen. If you're going to prosper a nation's economy, and I mean the entire nation's economy, you've got to have people working at jobs that make products or offer services or grow crops or something. And what we have right now is a system that is plundering the world, including our nation, for the benefit of a very privileged few.
Okay, Mike. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Mike, let me ask you. I'll let you go on this. I know you got another caller. What about the $15 minimum wage, Mike? What is that going to do for this country? You think that's going to keep people employed? There's going to be unemployment like you've never seen before. Laying all these people off the gas pipeline, XL. I mean, this is insanity. We got communists already in the Capitol, in the White House, and everywhere else. You got AOC lying her butt off, saying she was scared for her life. Oh, they're going to come in and kill me. What about all the Antifa and BLM killing American citizens? Well, the one guy remember the Afro-American gentleman? He got murdered for holding a sign that he supported Trump, Mike? You never heard nothing on crickets. All you hear was crickets from these people.
Yes.
These leftist communists. So, I don't just I talk about everything, Mike. I'll talk. If you want to talk, I won't talk immigration for a month. How's that? I won't.
Well,
Let other people bring it up. Marco does. He's a great job. He does a fantastic job.
Tom. Okay. If there's something new, okay, about immigration, please bring it up. But the complaints I'm getting is that you seem to get into this sort of rant that you have been down before, and it's taking up time from other callers. And we're just saying, tone it back a little bit. Just tone it back a little.
I got you, Mike. I got you. Look, like I said, I think right now what's going on with AOC, Ocasio-Cortez lying about her feeling threatened they're going to burn the Capitol down and they're all going to shoot all the Democrats. Look, all I got to say is BLM was probably mostly involved in this and Antifa, okay? And yeah, you maybe have some whack jobs, but I guarantee you don't hear nobody calling in about George Soros sponsoring this. My brother was offered $1,800 in Ocala to go protest Trump. My brother told him what they had a bunch of people going around handing out money to go to destroy Trump's rally in 2016, Mike.
Yes, I know they did.
You know that?
Yep.
It was in 2016 that they were actually paying $18,000 to make have disturbances at Trump's rallies. Nobody in the media ever talked about that in the leftist communist media.
No. Did you?
All I can say, I'll leave you with the thought.
You did notice the story we did earlier about this tape that surfaced showing the ballots being delivered in Detroit after the deadline, and even with the videotape, the Detroit elections officials don't want to look at the story. It's absolutely shut out.
It was a stolen election, absolutely, Mike. I totally from the night I watched it was so total. I mean, Trump was winning at 12 o'clock at night. At 3 o'clock in the morning, he's losing. That was unbelievable what I saw. At 12 o'clock, when he caught. Look what Fox News did about Florida, and they were calling Arizona before Florida, Mike.
Yeah, I know.
That was right there. You knew the whole thing was a rig. The whole thing was fixed. It was even Fox News and all these other networks are all on the take. They're all. I don't. Mike. You know who's running the show. But listen,
yeah, I know.
I'll leave you with this thought, Mike. This country, the only reason it is surviving as it is right now, Mike, because we have a Second Amendment. If we didn't have the Second Amendment, I think the country would already been totally communist like Cuba. That's the only reason that this country is still free to a degree, is because of the Second Amendment.
Well, they're working on taking that one away, and I'm expecting more false flag mass shootings and other things to try and manufacture consent for suspension of the Second Amendment.
Absolutely, Mike. Well, I know you got other callers, so I'll let you go, and I'll tone it down for a month on immigration. But after that, I'm going to talk other stuff. But I'm going to tell you, my point is, Mike, the French. They're finally going to wake up, and all the Europeans are going to wake up, and then finally maybe it'll hit here. Now we have to wake up. We got to start paying our women to have children. We should be giving our American women $30,000, $40,000 to have children for each kid they're going to have, so we can bring back our cultural identity. Not another cultural identity is coming, from nowhere. It's not,
and we're paying for it.
Giant continent on here. Exactly, we're paying for it. That's all I got to say, Mike. Have a great show. And
all right. Thanks a lot, Tom, here. And yeah, I mean, this goes all the way back, to the 1990s and the so-called feminist revolution, which was out there telling American women, don't be a housewife, don't have children, don't be a mother. You need to have a career. Go on out there and join the workforce. And then, of course, the tax laws were changed, and these women who were not really happy in the workplace found they couldn't actually go back to being mothers and housewives. It was rigged against them, and that's why today in America, most married couples, both of them are working, which is complicated by their having children. And, they're bringing in all these refugees and immigrants, and they're paying their bills. And, and it's all part of that whole globalist agenda to blur the ethnic lines, except it's not going to work. And the reason we know that is because during the heyday of immigration to the United States, when they were coming on over on the ships and the Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island and all of that, these people got into the United States, and the first thing they did is they formed their own little isolated enclaves, Little Italy, Japantown, Chinatown, so forth and so on. Anyway, we're going to go back to the phones here to Miles in Maine. Hello, Miles. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Michael. I think I'm going to have some of Tom's blend for me to understand Mark and the things that he, says. He runs around full circle and then back walks back his comments. Several times he sang the extols of socialist nations, socialist leaders, socialized medicine. Immigrants, are better citizens perhaps than letting them in than having us have, because we have, 1% maybe of this, if that, I doubt even that, of this transgender population. And all these commentaries he says, and then he walks it back. Well, I don't, Miles said this. The reason Miles says that is because that's what you say. That's what Marx says. He says these things. Miles doesn't say them. Marx says them. Marx says that, letting all these immigrants in is better than having a transgender issue here in the United States at 30, 40, 50 million. It's more productive to have them in here. And I disagree. And, and then Marx has said in the past, like he wound up his comment by saying, well, maybe I don't believe in socialism, maybe national socialism. But my commentary is the same, Michael. Socialism everywhere has failed, period.
Yes.
Period. So I don't understand what Mark's saying, but he walks around in a circle with these comments and says, I didn't say this and I didn't say that. But, well, national socialism I might agree in. I don't care what form of socialism. None of it's worked, period. That's my commentary to sum it up in a nutshell. And I'm going to have to get a cup of some of Tom's blend to keep up with this backtracking on comments.
Yeah, I could use a little of that myself, especially today.
Right. When it comes to these Second Amendment issues, how many rulings do we need? I mean, we've got the Constitution. We've got perhaps at least I can think of maybe 100 Second Amendment case laws from the Supreme Court and other federal courts. And how is this going on? How, and I might have the case wrong, but is it Marbury versus Madison, or I'm trying to think of which one. I got them a little bit off balance.
Okay, Marbury versus Madison is the one that says laws that are repugnant to the Constitution are automatically null and void.
So how can they even consider a law against these laws against the Second Amendment that they're talking about, putting taxes on them, adding another layer? Actually, that's what that would be, right? Am I correct, Michael? Adding another layer of government when you're going to add the Treasury or somebody over a right?
Yep.
So, I mean, how are we layering, different departments of the government over a constitutional right, and this is legal? I mean, I don't understand that, but I don't know.
It's only legal because they say it's legal, and people, are basically going along with it. Although, as you can hear from the callers into the show, more and more people are saying, it's time to stop cooperating with all of this nonsense. Maybe a national general strike is the way to go. It certainly has had impacts at other times in history, like Mahatma Gandhi in India, for example. And I'm a non-violent person myself, and I really don't want to see violence in the streets of America. But something does have to change. And at this point, I'm looking at events in Myanmar. And given that most of the military people I know tend to be strict constitutionalists, I don't know if I would be that upset if there were a military coup in this country.
Yeah, as long as it were for the right side, so to speak, for the right reasons. But I agree with you. There's no violent solution that's going to make any of this better. It's just going to create more, more control, more. It's going to play into their hands and give them more of what they want, more of the Patriot Acts, more of those types of things. But it's we've seen history time and time again what happens when not just the Second Amendment, but when gun rights and firearms rights, and basically it's not even gun rights, it's self-protection rights is what I boil it down to.
Yeah, it really is.
Interfered with in any of these nations. We've seen what the dictators and if this hasn't been a dictatorship, I mean, I'm still trying to understand how Biden can just say, hey, we're not going to build the wall no more, and boom, 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 that's it. Nobody says nothing. There's not a word about it. This is crazy. We're going to stop this pipeline, and that's all that's to it. I mean, what the hell? What's going on with that? I mean, we don't have no dialogue. Nobody on any other side. No
Well,
independent.
they're not.
No
They're not afraid
libertarian.
of the
Nobody,
voters
no
anymore.
groups.
You know, they're not afraid of the voters
Yeah.
anymore.
When, you know what they say when the government's not afraid of the people, but the people are afraid of government. And with that,
That's
I'll
tyranny.
leave you to a excellent show. Yeah, thank you. Have a good day.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch to Kelly in Austin, and Kelly, I'm going to have to take you through the commercial break. What's on your mind?
Okay, Mike, I'm wondering now, since we have a warmonger back in the White House who's got a
Yes.
cabinet now that's loaded up with other warmongers, and since this idiot wants to practically kill oil production in this country, how does he propose to have a military that's not dependent on foreign sources of oil for his adventurism?
It's
I don't
certainly a
understand
valid
that.
point. It's certainly a valid point. I mean, that strategic national reserve isn't going to last that long. I mean, you know, during war, you burn up all that oil very quickly. And one of the bad decisions the United States Navy made is after Admiral Rickover pioneered the use of nuclear technology. It was basically confined to submarines and the aircraft carriers, and all the other ships are still fueled with fossil fuels.
Yes. But so under Trump, this nation became energy independent again. And
Yes.
the military, if it had to rely on domestically produced oil, did not have a problem. But now he's going to kill that.
Yep.
And he intends to get us involved in conflicts around the world. No telling how many.
It looks like it. Okay. Kelly, I got to put you on hold.
Yeah.
We got to take a commercial break.
Surely.
I'll come right back to you after these words from our sponsors.
Hey gang, Patrick Slattery here with an important message that is pertinent to anyone who shops for groceries, eats food, or just has an inquisitive mind like myself. What I'm about to introduce you to is a segment of our food culture that has been kept so low profile to the American public that virtually no one is aware of how dominant it is on our refrigerator and cupboard shelves. What I'm talking about is the kosher certification industry and a new app, Koshertified, that delivers a comprehensive education on all aspects regarding this little-known practice. After reviewing this app, I found that it is useful for practically anyone who purchases food, regardless of their religious faith or identity. Its database of products not kosher certified is a win-win convenience for all food-conscious people. So why not check out the kosherquestion.com or click on the link at nationalbugle.com and see how modifying your grocery shopping with the Koshertified app can make a huge difference for your future.
For over 20 years now, Extendivite has proven time and again it really works. Here is a testimonial from Amazon.com. I received an arterial switch at birth. In my mid-20s, I started getting slight runs of NSVT. Nothing too serious, but enough to cause worry. I started taking Extendivite a little over 2 years ago, and it helped cut the palpitations and NSVT down drastically. This isn't a cure-all supplement. I strongly recommend a good diet and exercise to aid in any heart troubles you may be having, and I strongly recommend giving Extendivite a try. Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com. That's HEARTDROP.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Have you been looking for a trusted long-term storable food company? We have a solution for you. Simply Clean Foods is dedicated to providing the best quality food you can buy next to fresh from a farmer's market. Our line of resealable fruits, vegetables, and meats are suitable for everyday use, and you won't have to worry about throwing away valuable groceries ever again. Our food is completely GMO-free, and our stringent quality controls plus testing for heavy metals makes us unique in the storable foods market. Simply Clean Foods' primary focus is to bring clean food to people all around the world and change the way we look at freeze-dried food in our daily cooking. When you purchase from simplycleanfoods.net, not only will you be receiving high-quality food, but you will also be supporting veterans in need across the country and those who are affected by natural disasters. Right now, Amazon Prime members will receive fast 2-day shipping. Go to simplycleanfoods.net. That's simplycleanfoods.net. But do it today.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
Welcome back to our show, last segment of our program on this, thank goodness it's Friday, and we're talking with Kelly in Austin. So, Kelly, if you could just pick up where you left off.
Well, I don't want to belabor this point, except to say that people who are going to cheerlead Biden into these disastrous conflicts around the world need to think twice about that, because he's pushing that agenda on the one hand, and yet on the other hand, domestically, he is doing other things that would completely undermine an effective military.
Yes, I absolutely agree.
I think what's going to happen is that moron is going to get us involved in a conflict with Russia. He's really pushing a conflict with Russia. He wants to rejoin. He wants to ramp up NATO, and they want to confront Russia. I think the Russian military would absolutely wipe them out.
They certainly would. I mean, they're ahead of us on several different weapons platforms. Apparently, their hypersonic ICBM is called the Avangard, and it travels at near orbital speed, and there is nothing in the U.S. inventory that can intercept it. I think the U.S. military is making the same mistake the Nazis did toward the end of World War II, where they placed their reliance on their high-tech wonder weapons to win the war. And it didn't work, obviously, and they seem to have forgotten the lesson of Vietnam, which is that you cannot win a ground war from the air.
Well, that's true. And about World War II, one other thing that people don't realize is that when the Germans launched the assault, the Battle of the Bulge assault,
yes,
they were kicking the crap out of the Americans.
Yes, they were.
British. What happened was that they overran their supply lines and they ran short of fuel.
Yes,
and that's where it collapsed. If they hadn't overrun those supply lines, if they had maintained that fuel supply, they might have broken through and gotten right on to their objective, cut the two armies in half, and ended the war right there. That's the problem we're facing right now.
Yeah. You know, a lot of people have wondered why the Japanese, when they attacked Pearl Harbor, why they didn't drop bombs on the tank farm that was sitting right next to Pearl Harbor, which had enough fuel to basically, power the fleet for the rest of the war. But Japan just had this image that America was swimming in oil and just didn't think it was going to be that big a deal. But if they had blown up that tank farm, the war probably would have gone the other way.
It might well have, yeah.
Yep.
Well, look, I know you have maybe one or two other people who want to get on, so let me get out of here. I've said what I had to say. Thanks for taking the call.
All right. Well, Dan, thanks an awful lot. And actually, we don't have anybody waiting at hold that I'm going to have to apologize for when the music starts, which is going to be in just a few seconds here. Getting on back to news here. Apparently, Microsoft has tracked a system that was sending 1 million malware emails a month. And apparently they discovered it last March and April. It's taken a while to basically find it. It's part of the Dridex banking Trojan system, but has been expanded for other nefarious purposes. I don't know why our government doesn't see computer malware and hacking as a major priority. If I'm elected president, I will make malware my #1 priority. All right, that's the end of the show. Stay tuned for John Stadmiller. I'm sure he's got lots of interesting things to share with you. Spread the word of Republic Broadcasting. Spread the word of whatreallyhappened.com. Please donate. Keep us in this fight for the restoration of the Republic. We'll be back on Monday. Have a good weekend, and aloha, America.